Good evening. I would like to call this meeting of the Public Works Committee of the Common Council to order. Today is Tuesday, October 4th, 2022. It is 7:02. Roll call tonight. We have Mr. Livingston, Tom Livingston, Brian Meek, Nora Najelski-Eichner, Dominique Johnson, Darlene Young, myself, Barbara Smith, and missing tonight is Lisa Shanahan. First item on the agenda is public comment, public input. Do we have anyone signed up or on the Zoom with their hand raised? It looks like we have two people. We can move. Okay, there's Ms. Lauricella. Ms. Lauricella, you have 3 minutes. Good evening.
Good evening, Chairman Smith. For the record, of course, my name is Diane Lauricella, 21 Little Fox Lane. I'm speaking tonight. I know later on in the discussion items, you'll be speaking about various waste streams that currently there are programs in the city. By the state of Connecticut's goal of reducing waste, the waste trash stream, 60% by 2040, we want to try to capture through recycling and reuse programs. Based upon the numbers that I and others in the know have examined of our numbers over many years, especially the last 6 months or so, Norwalk has a ways to go. It can and should be able to optimize and save taxpayers money, but also do the right thing and create and assist in the circular economy that we all hope for in the future. I am an organizer for the Norwalk Zero Waste Coalition. Several of my members couldn't be here tonight. They have been quite discouraged because they've offered their help. They want to help our city do better and also have fun with it, be creative. So we urge this council to allow us to help with either the pre-interviews, in other words, knowing what characteristics we're looking for in a waste and recycling coordinator, or actually even being part of the interview process. And there is precedent for that to allow civilians, especially civilians that are professionals in the business, to assist the city. We also have asked, also with Mr. Igneri when he was chairman, that this committee and a staff person can't do it alone. And I ask that you consider invoking a blue ribbon panel on recycling and reuse. It is part of the resilience model, but it is very specific and focused. We have a way to optimize our food scrap, our textiles, our recycling. And I know we have programs, the mattresses, Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day. Long story short is we can optimize these with increased education. We have to do education inundation to help retrain people on where things go. As a member of the statewide board of Recycle CT, again, I offer our assistance. We have lots of free information that could be used in various educational promotions. Thank you for your time. I would like to ask Vanessa and the chairwoman Smith that I and select members of Norwalk Zero Waste Coalition meet with you in the very near future, because we don't think you have to wait to even hire someone. We could help get the ball rolling, because this is not rocket science, but it is important to do it right and recycle right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lauricella. Next, Tanner Thompson. Mr. Thompson, good to see you. You may speak.
Thanks. I'm not sure you can see me, but I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Thank you. So I'm Tanner Thompson, for the record. I'm the chair of Norwalk's Bike Walk Advisory Commission. I am speaking today to the agenda item about the signage for the Connecticut Community Connectivity Grant. This is a grant that the TMP department has been working on for years, and actually since before Jim Travers took over as director of TMP. First of all, I want to thank Jim for doing a great job handling this. When he took over, the plan for this grant was for 2 bike routes, one north-south and one east-west through the city. The original plan when he took over the position was for the entire thing to be shared lanes, shared between bikes and cars. And Jim was able to even though the project was already in flight, to convert almost half of the total length of the route to dedicated bike lanes, which are demonstrably safer based on research that's been done in the United States and other places. So I want to thank Jim for that and congratulate GMP and the city for getting this far with this project. Of course, we support the signage for the route. I do want to mention also the east-west bike route, which will go roughly from Rowayton to Westport along 136 mostly, will be part of a larger regional bike route that is in the process of being organized. I'm part of a group called the Fairfield County Bike Partnership. Started with Greenwich and Stamford. It's now grown to include towns all the way up to Bridgeport. And that will be a regional bike route, and this will be a key chunk of that. So thanks again to the city for being part of that. My other comment is admittedly a little bit less informed. It's about the electric hybrid vehicle plan. I don't have the context on this, but I would urge the Common Council to include in any plan that involves electric vehicles to include electric bicycles in that. A lot of people don't know that electric bicycles already outsell electric cars 2 to 1 in the United States. They're a much more affordable option for most people. An electric bike can do much more than a normal bicycle in terms of fulfilling transportation needs. The state of Connecticut has already offered a $500 rebate to those who meet income requirements to like a tax credit to go toward purchasing an electric bike. That's something that Connecticut's actually leading the nation in right now. So I hope that electric bikes make it into whatever plan we have for electric vehicles. That's all. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay, I don't see anyone. Okay, I will close public input and move on to new business. The first item under new business is to approve the minutes of the Public Works Committee meeting of Tuesday, September 6th, 2022. Will someone make a motion, please? Mr. Livingston moves the minutes. Are there any changes, additions, deletions to the minutes? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes as is, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, abstentions? Opposed? Nope. Okay, carries unanimously. Item 2, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order for CN Wood Enviro LLC for the purchase of one Pelican NP three-wheel broom street sweeper for some not to exceed $275,345. Account number noted. This is an item that was approved in the capital budget, and so it's just a matter of assigning it to this account. Vanessa, would you like to anything, or Chris, you're
this right now, the city, just in case you're wondering, has three-wheel Pelican Elgin sweepers. Right around 50,000 hours, they start to the front wheel drives start to go on them, and it's $50,000 to replace the front wheel drives for those sweepers. We are trying to sweep more, as you guys have noticed. We're cleaning up Sono more, we're sweeping more, we're going through more brooms, and we really need to have 3 reliable sweepers, because if we keep getting mild winters, we will sweep all year round. It's part of our commitment to the MS4 permit. And if anyone has any questions, I'd love to get them. But just real quick, the difference between this sweeper, of course, the supply and demand, is this one actually uses cameras all the way around the sweeper. So the operator can see what's around his sweeper using cameras. If they're sweeping at night, it has like infrared vision, I guess, or night vision, to see obstacles and objects in front of the sweeper. Kids, I don't know, whatever, but it's a cool option for this year, and it's not why the sweepers are so much. They're so much because they're that much money.
Mr. Livingston.
Yeah, thank you. So Chris, what's the life of these things? You said 50,000 hours. What does that translate into?
The last time we bought a sweeper was like 6 years ago.
Okay, so about 6 years.
And we bought them similar to what we're going to do this year. We're going to request one this year, one next year, and one the following year in our 5-year master plan for our fleet replacement plan.
Okay, so they last about 6 years. Okay. All right, thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Meek?
Maybe I misread this, but the comparison to an EV street sweeper was 800,000 versus about $250,000. I'm just curious where the tech resides lately with the EV ones. Like how long can those things run for without a charge, et cetera? What other data is it about those that might compel the city to buy one day?
Please, let me just start it and then you can give all the technical. So good evening, everybody. We understand that there is some concern about the electrical vehicles in general with all the fleet. So that's why we even ended up adding as a discussion item to the agenda tonight to give you guys an idea about the overall plan that we have on replacing some of the some of the vehicles that we have in our fleet for electrical. As of now, unfortunately, the technology is not there and the price is not there for the bigger equipment like the sweeper and the trucks. But we're gonna get into more details when we get to this discussion item, and also tell you what will be the plan to try to replace some of our fleet with electrical vehicles. So meanwhile, I'll let Chris give you the details about the price.
Fair enough, thank you.
The salesperson that currently is the Northeast manager, it's all this big equipment is proprietary, so there's only a select dealers that you can get these machines from. So our CN Wood dealer left CN Wood last year and now works for Kaiser. They are a big in electric sweepers. They cannot sweep a full day without recharging. The batteries are like $10,000 to replace, to have extra batteries for those things. And they have half the capacity and sweep at half the capacity of the Elgin Pelican sweepers. So, you know, that's a council decision. If you want to spend almost $1 million or something that sweeps half as good, or $250,000 for something that we know sweeps well.
You know, it's a dilemma. You know, I think we all want to see us moving towards electric, but, you know, if the technology is not there and the cost is just so astronomical, it really presents a problem. So we just, you know, hope that
We have looked.
industry keeps moving forward, you know?
We have looked, Chairwoman Smith, at possibly replacing a few of our Ford supervisor pickup trucks with the Ford Lightning that is all electric. But just so you guys know, it's twice as much as what we would replace normally. So, you know, that's going to be another decision for maybe next month's council meeting or a few down the line, but it's just something to think about.
Mhm. Okay. Did I ask for a motion on that item? I don't know if I did. So can someone, Nora, thank you. Nora made that motion. Thank you. Okay, is there any further questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, signify by raising your hand.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Abstentions? All right, that carries unanimously. Moving on to item 3, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Total Fence LLC, state contract 18 PSX 0147 for the supply and installation of about 165 feet of Merritt Parkway guardrail on Aiken Street for a sum not to exceed $25,790. Accounts noted. Will someone move the item, please? Mr. Livingston, thank you. Vanessa?
Thank you. At Aiken Street, we have a curve that sometimes we notice that there is a lot of accidents happening there. And what happened is that the cars ended up hitting a private fence for one of the condominiums that we have. So what we're proposing is to install a little bit of that guardrail right where is that curve on the street. We're gonna use that Merritt Parkway kind of timber look. And what we are using here is a state contract. And this is, the accounts that you're seeing, it is combined between DPW and TMP. So it's kind of a combined project to have that guardrail installed on that portion of the street where we're noticing a lot of accident there.
Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Meek? Oh, you're muted.
Thanks. Sorry, I'm trying to vision, where exactly is the corner you're talking about?
When you come from West Rocks and you go down on the street, it is the curve on the right side before you get to the bottom of Aiken Street. So you pass the school and then kind of there is a curve to the left. So usually people tend to go straight.
Okay, and I don't know if this is industry standard, the Merritt Parkway guardrail, we're talking like, is that like that 4x8 like wooden
Correct. Yes,
fence?
that's the
So
one. Yes.
okay,
Yeah, and that will be installed not on private property, but on the city right of way.
so that's our right of way. So if I'm going northbound on West Rocks, I take a left on Aiken and I go downhill towards Ward Ave, it's
It will
on
be
my
on your
left,
right. On your
it's on
right,
my right-hand side.
correct.
Okay,
There's a condominium there that when you start going downhill,
yeah,
so that's where it goes.
okay, thank you.
No problem.
I know exactly where it is, and people do barrel down there and they just don't pay close enough attention. You know, considering it's by a school, you know, it's concerning how people drive there. Any other questions, comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Abstentions? All righty, that carries unanimously. I'll move items 4A and B together. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with the New York, Connecticut Corporation for State Project 102364 West Avenue Traffic Signal System Upgrade, FAP 1102-124, for an amount not to exceed $870,914, accounts noted. And item 4B, authorize the Director of Transportation, Mobility, and Parking to execute orders on contract with the New York, Connecticut Corporation for State Project 102-364 West Avenue Traffic Signal System Upgrade, FAP 1102-124, for an amount not to exceed $87,091, accounts noted. Will someone like to move that, please? Ms. Nadjelski Eichner moves the items. These are projects on West Avenue, which are 90% grant funded. And I believe we have Mike Yosek.
Yes, thank you,
Okay.
Madam
Thank you.
Chairwoman. Yes, these are signals on the upper end of West Avenue and Belden Avenue. They'll be turned to adaptive of a safety grant project. As you mentioned, it's 90% state funded, with the city making up the 10% match. I'd be happy for any questions that anybody has on it.
Mr. Livingston?
Yeah, didn't we already do this? I mean, or is this just moving up West Avenue?
We went through several iterations of this throughout the design phase and everything. This is the actual bids came back now, and we're awarding the contract to I think the last time I was before you was for the agreement between the city and the state on the funding.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Meek?
Thanks. One of my questions was the same as Tom's, but where it runs from Belden Avenue, or I would say, is that Mott Ave intersection, and how far south does that go?
This would be West Avenue at Maple, West Avenue at Elm, Leonard, West Avenue at Wall, and Belden at Burnell.
Okay, so Merwin Street's covered, so we're looking at kind of north of Merwin Street to the library. That's what we're looking at for this?
Yeah, it'd be from Maple Street north.
Maple Street. Okay, so St. Mary's up. So that's 4 intersections that we're getting.
It's 1, 2, I believe it's 6.
Okay. Thanks. So, I think most people I know are frustrated with like the light signal from Butler all the way down to the mall. Does that tie into any of that programming? Or is this going to be like its own separate?
That whole
zone?
corridor, that whole corridor will be adaptive now. So
Okay.
from basically from Gardner Street north.
Okay. And I think, as I recall, I think Rizzo did that work years ago, but we went with this next low bidder by $1,000. It's probably so long ago, it doesn't matter. Is that under state control, or did we not have purview to keep it with the same contractor to keep some institutional knowledge
I
on the
think,
project?
I'm sorry, Mike, let me just say that I think that there are two separate things here. Actually, Nikon and Rizzo, they are kind of twin companies. It's just that they are pretty much like the same mother and all that. But I believe that what you're saying, Mr. Mick, for that project was when we install those traffic signals on West Avenue, and that was when Rizzo did it. The adaptive signal now, this is just like the equipment that will go into that are the new updated ones that when the mall was built, we asked them to install that same type of equipment in front of the mall. So now what we are doing, we are installing this new technology on the new traffic signs that were installed a few years ago. Is that correct, Mike?
That's pretty much correct. The equipment itself is proprietary, so either contractor is well qualified to install it, and it's done under the direction of the manufacturer of the equipment. So either they would have the same people working on installing the equipment.
Okay, thanks. That's very helpful. And just last for my edification, and maybe not related to this, but wasn't West Avenue a state road at one point? When did the city take ownership of that? When did it lose its state road designation?
I couldn't tell you that. I've been with the city for 30 years, and it's always been a city road. But I think you are right. It was a state road quite a while ago.
Okay, but we own it fully. That's why we're ponying in the 10%. Okay. All right, awesome. Thanks.
Ms. Najewski Eichner? You're muted.
Sorry, and this is just a quick question for my own edification. Noticing that we're only having 2 bidders here, and I feel like that is a situation that comes up fairly often. Is this simply a matter of the fact that these are just very specialized jobs and there are very few companies who do this work? Or is it sort of that, certain companies have kind of developed a pattern of working for Norwalk, and so they only certain companies apply? I'm just curious kind of how big the marketplace is for projects like this, because certainly I'm starting to recognize a lot of the same names over and over again.
Yeah, for the traffic signal work, it's kind of the purview of these 2 companies in this part of the state. The state is having the same problem all over the state, that there's it's a very specialized equipment, specialized type of work, and there's very few contractors statewide that do this, and their employees kind of like to stay to areas close to where they work. They're not going to come down from the northern part of the state and fire traffic, unfortunately.
Sure. No, I get it. I have to say, one of my major takeaways from sitting on this committee is how what very good jobs civil engineers are, and how we desperately need a better pipeline to civil engineering jobs, more internships for civil engineers. So thank you. That's helpful to clarify that. I appreciate it.
Mr. Mick, did you have another question?
Yeah, just based on the comment Ms. Valadares made, and Nikon is one of the principals is a Rizzo. They're closely related. We're not in, that doesn't violate the bidding process whatsoever. Are they
No,
Are they
they
owned by
just,
some
they
other
just
parent
own,
company?
they have two companies, it's kind of two sister companies, and sometimes what happened is due to the, one is union and the other is not. That's what it is. So sometimes some jobs, state jobs or some private jobs requires that it will be a unionized company and then they use one bid or the other. But in our case, we don't require that. We just require state wage rates and then both qualify. So usually we get the bids from both and another one.
So,
But they are two separate companies, but we know that somehow they are kind of, let's say it's two arms of one company.
okay, so Nikon is the clothes shop? Or do I have that backwards? Is Rizzo the open shop or clothes shop, or Nikon is?
Now I don't know the answer. Mike, do you know the answer?
I'm not sure that, I mean, they're under separate, ownership.
Ownership, yeah.
Yeah.
And this crossed the threshold,
I think one's,
Billing wage law? This project, because it's under $1 million, or I don't know the thresholds. I thought the thresholds moved up for
I'm sorry, which threshold are you asking?
for the prevailing wage requirement.
Yeah, no, it is $500,000. We require wage
Oh,
rate.
okay. So I mean, I'm guessing Nikon is the clothes shop then, so that we satisfy that with the state.
We satisfy with all the companies that we only show, when we do the summary, we only present to you the bids that were, the bidders that were qualified by our procurement. The ones that do not, we do not even list them. We list the name, but not the price, because they get disqualified by the purchasing agent. So yes, both companies meet all the requirements, particularly to meet the federal grant.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, anything else on that? Okay, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, that carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mike. All right, moving on to item 5, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Gabrielli Truck Sales of Milford for the purchase of one 2023 Mack GR 42F plow truck not to exceed $265,043, account noted. Would someone like to move that, please? Mr. Livingston moves the item. Again, another truck that was approved in the capital budget. Mr. Torrey, want to take that?
Sure. So luckily for us, our fleet manager, Joel Grant, approached Anthony Carr and myself last year and said that Gabrielli Truck would be satisfied knowing that we were going to purchase at least a truck this year, just for a letter of intent. So we gave them that letter of intent. So if you're wondering why one truck is $290,000 and one is $265,000 and almost $26,000 upswing, was because of supply and steel prices. So luckily we were able to sneak one in at the 2023 price and another one at the 2024 price.
Any questions on that? Mr. Livingston?
Yeah, Chris, did I see in the backup something about some carbon neutral, something like paying a couple extra $1,000? I mean, I read this last week. Some environmental
I see it, Tom. It's the EPA plus CARB federal mandate diesel motors, 2100.
yeah, it was an option, I think. And are we doing that?
Yes, we have to do it.
Okay, good. I want to make sure we're doing it.
Nope, yeah, we have to do that, Tom. That's one of the reasons, Councilman Livingston, that's one of the reasons why it's gone up, is because our trucks, if you leave them idling too long, they regenerate themselves. So they're burning less emissions. And it takes about 45 minutes to do that. And they do it twice a storm, and it is going to add to our plowing time slightly. Nothing that the residents would see, but just giving you a heads up.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions on that? Okay, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Ms. Johnson? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, Ms. Johnson, are you there?
Yes, I was having internet connection problems, but I'm an aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so that item passes unanimously. Moving on to item 6, which we've already had some explanation. Authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Gabrielli Truck Sales of Milford for the purchase price of 2024 Mack GR 42F plow truck not to exceed $290,801. Accounts noted. Would someone move that, please?
Nora's turn.
Okay, Nora's turn. Thanks, Ms. Nadjelski-Eichner. Any additional questions here or comments? No. Okay, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay.
That's an aye for me.
Okay, gotcha. All right, opposed, abstentions. All right, that carries unanimously. All right, moving on to item 7A and B, which I will read together. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with A. Vidi Excavators LLC for project BR 2021-1, Site 1 and 2, Bonnie Brook Road over Holy Ghost Fathers Brook, Site 1, and Cannon Street over Betts Pond Brook, Site 2, for a sum not to exceed $654,365. Accounts noted. And 7B, authorize the interim chief of operations and public works to execute orders on the contract with A. Vidi Excavators LLC for project BR 2021-1, Site 1 and 2, Bonnie Brook Road over Holy Ghost Fathers Brook, Site 1, and Cannon Street over Betts Pond Brook, Site 2, for a sum not to exceed $65,436.50. Accounts noted. And who's going to move that one? Those. Okay, Mr. Livingston, thank you. And, you know, these are maintenance on some bridges that have been in the works for quite some time. So Ms. Valadares, would you like to add some information there?
Sure. So the city is responsible for inspecting all the bridges that is below a 20-foot span. So a few years ago, we hired Freeman to do the inspection of all of our bridges. Some of them are more kind of culverts, but they qualify as bridges as well. And then it come out of a list of which one were in critical, good, poor conditions and all that. So after that list was developed, what we did is we're developing our capital requests based on that list, and we're trying to do the work on it. So this is really was already the design. We did it last year. 1 year we are kind of asking for money to design, and whatever we need to do on those was identify on those bridges, and the following year we try to fund for the construction of them. So that's where we are on this one. So those are the first 2 ones. Theoretically, we should have done that a little bit before, but we had Rowayton Bridge that took was an emergency, so we had to move Rowayton as the first one, and we were focused on that. But now we had time to finalize these 2 projects. We put it out to bid, and we have the 2 sites that we're going to be doing some work. Some of them is not really a full replacement of the bridge. Again, on these 2 sites, we are just doing some restoring work, repairing. Some of them is just the culvert itself that needs to be improved. Some of them is the retaining wall or the end wall of the bridge. So it's kind of various work in those 2 different locations.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions, specific questions or comments about those projects? Okay. Oh, Ms. Nadjelski-Eichner, go ahead.
Sorry, quickly. So I noticed that the bids were significantly higher than the engineering estimates. And I don't know if that's a function of supply chain issues or what, but I just wondered if you could briefly speak to that discrepancy.
Sure. Unfortunately, we're seeing the prices going high, not only on bridges, but on the bids that we're putting out. There are two reasons for that. The first one is material. Particularly everything related to pipes and steel, the prices has been extremely high, and it is still it's very hard for them to know how much they're gonna end up paying when they ended up really have to place the order. So the other thing that is happening is that there is a lot of construction going on. So the contractors have been busy, and that also put the prices a little bit higher. We consider on rebidding, but we look at all the numbers again, and we realize that where we have the majority of the cost would be things that even if we wait a couple of months wouldn't be worth rebidding. Another thing is that it is really a small work. It's not a major work that we could value engineer and take some things out. So where the price is higher on items that we don't see that will become lower in the next year and a half, and due to the conditions of the bridges, we're proposing that we award the contract.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful context to have.
Okay, anything else? Okay, I will call for a vote. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? All right, that carries, both items carry unanimously. Okay, moving on to items 8A and B. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a second amendment to the original September 8th, 2020 agreement between the city of Norwalk and M. Rondano, Inc. for project DRG 2020-1 on-call drainage improvements at various locations for a sum not to exceed $1,052,138.80, accounts noted. And item 8B, authorize the interim chief of operations and public works to execute orders on the contract with M. Rondano, Inc. for project DRG 2020-1 on-call drainage improvements for a sum not to exceed $105,213.78, accounts noted. And I'd just like to point out that this is the second of the one-year extensions. And, you will note in your background that there are some specific requests regarding increased market prices on some of these items. So I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Valadares to go through some of this.
Thank you. So this is pretty much a follow-up of what I just said about the higher prices. So let me just start first with what is this contract? This is the on-call drainage contract that we established. This will be our third year if we approve the extension. The on-call drainage contractor we use in advance of our paving program. So breaking this contract out of the paving, we are able to get to some roads, do all the drainage requirements so we can have the road ready for paving. So usually the contractor is 6 months to a year ahead of the streets that we are forecasting that will be paved. It has been extremely successful, and we are trying to keep this as part of our paving program. Rondano has been very good to work with. That's why we recommend a second-year extension. On our original bid was a contract with a 1-year option to extend, and now we're going to exercise our second year. So the only caveat about this second one is that Rondano is asking if we can increase some of the unit prices on some of those items. And we listed the items, and before we agree or support that, we ask them for a backup to show that they are really paying more in the material. We do buy directly some material for our own crew through operations, and we do know that the prices for the material has been increased. Recently, to try to find any pipe HDPE you really have to pay a premium to get that pipe. Some of them that have even like 18-month lead. The catch basins are also items that has really increased prices. Again, I think that Rondano was able to show us that they are not really increasing their profit on the item. They're just trying to not lose money on paying more for the material. So that's why we support the increase on all of those items that we listed.
Mr. Livingston, who, by the
Yeah.
way, I think you moved that item, right? That
No, I think that was Nora's turn.
Oh, okay, well, all right.
Hey, Vanessa, is this ARPA? I see the ARPA. Is that an ARPA account on these?
Yes, what happened is that we use our general drainage to also cover part of this cost. As you can see, we have a lot of accounts listed here. So we use our paving, our sidewalk, and our general drainage. But this year, our general drainage capital account was zero because we get funded by ARPA funds.
Do you know offhand what percentage of this, what about $1.1 million is covered by ARPA?
$500,000.
500?
Yes, we
Okay.
may not be all that we ended up going to this contract, but that was what was under this account was $500,000. That $500,000 has to cover our direct purchasing of material. As I said, we buy some catch basins and pipes that is bought directly through operations. It's funded through that account, and the remaining will feed this PO.
Great, thanks.
Ms. Johnson?
Thank you, Chair. And just as a follow-up, Chief Eldares, I see that with the ARPA funding, that probably means this is part of the bigger project you all are working on with flood mitigation, thanks to the ARPA funds. Is that fair to say too? It's kind of that.
This one in particularly, we are also trying to get on where we have the flooding in small areas that we can do a little study, and we try to use them to do the work.
Okay.
So yes, we have one project that we're finalizing the design in a small area in town that definitely gets a lot of flooding, and we're hoping that we can just use them to do the work using their unit prices.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Mr. Meek?
Thank you. Just curious, does any of this work find synergy with some of the issues that WPCA has with collection system, reclamation efforts to separate sanitary from drainage?
Yes,
Thanks.
you're correct, Mr. Mick. That's exactly why also another thing that we use the Rondano contract. So also WPCA funds part of this contract. So when we find any sewer that is combined with drainage, we use Rondano to separate them.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, let's vote on this. All in favor of items A and 8A and B? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, those carry unanimously. Moving on to item 9, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a second amendment to the September 8, 2020 agreement between the city of Norwalk and Anneman Kirby LLC for project number 4048 on-call surveying services for a sum not to exceed $150,000. Accounts noted. And who would like to move that item? Ms. Johnson is in the mix. Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Okay, another contract where we're looking at an asked increase. And so, Ms. Valadares, I'd like you to go ahead and address that, please.
I'm sorry, very similar with the base of the contract. When we bid it with an option to do a 2-year extension. This also will be the second year that we'll do the extension. We do not have a surveyor anymore as part of our staff. He retired a couple of years ago, so we need to engage a surveying company. We use them quite often, to be honest, so it's good to have someone that we can rely on. The amount of money that we use is really not as much comparing to all the projects that they help us. So that's why that is not a big contract. It's only $150,000, and we pay on an hourly rate. The only caveat about this extension, again, Enman and Kirby ask us if we'll consider a little bit of a 10% raise on their regular fees. They had the fees flat for the 3 years when they bid. But again, due to the increase of the soft costs, gas and all that, they are asking if we can increase their hourly rate. Why we are in support of that is that it's extremely hard to hire a survey company now. If you call a surveying company now, you're gonna be like weeks until someone will be able to make it to the project. So we do believe that the 10% increase, and we're still being part of their clientele, we're still gonna have all the priorities that we have for the last few years. So that's why we would like you guys to take in consideration that. So that's why we would like to extend this contract. The amount really doesn't change, it's exactly the same amount that we used last year, but we're gonna be paying 10% more on their hourly rate.
Does anyone have questions on this item? Mr. Meek.
Yeah, for my colleagues, I can attest the L1 survey prices are like 300% higher than they were a few years ago. But my question is, and let me preface this, we had a conversation last month about outsourced services for inspection services, and this kind of fits in line. And hearing Mike, who I remember when he started for the city, like, do we have a pipeline at engineers or inspectors or services coming in? Are we just in a total outsourcing model here? Is there any idea about getting recs for, some full-time services? One, I mean, I don't know how much money it saves, but we're certainly losing institutional knowledge every time we get new vendors and dependent on vendors and stuff like that. I just like to see better vision and strategy for the city. You're drinking from a fire hose with all the projects you have. It seems to me like maybe the pendulum's swinging and we need to look back at what we have for in-house engineering services. If you want to comment on that, I know it's a loaded question, but thanks.
No, Mr. Mick, as I said, we had a surveyor as part of our full-time staff, and unfortunately he retired. It's very hard to hire a surveyor. We do have one person, we're even trying to convince someone from our own staff to become a licensed surveyor. So he has a lot of knowledge. He can help us with a lot of things. In small things, he can go out with the equipment. We keep him busy all the time, but he is not licensed. Unfortunately, as I said, the market is very hot for that. And also, the young kids do not have anymore the desire to become engineers and surveyors. So it is not a very easy market to find a surveyor. When that position was open, we advertised. It wasn't advertised as a surveyor. He had just a different title, and the goal was to find someone with some surveying background, and we couldn't. But I have hope that, it's always a cycle, that maybe in a couple of years, the market may change, and then we're going to definitely keep our eyes open. I would love to have a full-time surveyor as part of the staff.
And actually, just to go back to, and I know that's not this particular item, but, with the engineers, if you could just, Vanessa, just, talk about that again, because, it has been something we've talked about many times in this committee, and, we've had conversations offline as well, but that at this time, it is more cost effective to be hiring out for inspection services.
Correct, because also what we are doing is, so there are two things why we still think that it's beneficial for, but the on-call inspection, that is not the case for the surveying. That was what came up in our last meeting. So the inspectors, we hire them seasonally. So we just hire them for a specific project or for a certain period of time. So for instance, paving, we have the inspector only when the plants are open. So we only pay for their service between April and usually mid-December. And on the case of the Dreaming Hollow project, we hire an inspector just for that project that should last until mid of next year. And then there will be not the need for that. We have the junior engineers that we do use them for inspection on a daily basis. They are out on the other projects every single day, at least 6 to 7 hours a day, and then they just come to the office to finalize paperwork. But at the same time, one thing that we are doing, these kids that we have as junior engineers, we are able to, all of them have an engineering degree. The inspectors that we are hiring not necessarily have an engineering degree. So we are able to use our own staff to do things that is beyond inspection. And that's where I think that we gain more with our money, because then we can use our staff engineer all year round to do other things beyond inspection that they can do because they do have an engineering degree.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time to address that, because again, it has come up from time to time over many years, and it has changed in time, and it does really, and I appreciate your efforts, and you're always looking at the best way to spend taxpayer dollars. So I do appreciate that. Anything else on we're on item 9 before I call for a vote? All righty, all in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Abstentions? And that carries unanimously. All right, moving on to items 10A and 10B. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with K5 Corporation for project TMP 2022-3, furnishings and installing traffic signs, Connecticut Community Connectivity Grant for an amount not to exceed $47,600, account noted. And 10B, authorize the Director of Transportation, Mobility and Parking to execute orders on contract with K5 Corporation for project TMP 2022-3, furnishing and installing traffic signs, Connecticut Community Connectivity Grant for an amount not to exceed $4,760, account noted. Who would like to move that? Mr. Livingston moves the items. Yes, these were the items that Mr. Thompson had spoken to regarding the, this is regarding the traffic signs. So
it is for the bike route.
Yeah.
So again, Mr. Thompson did a fantastic job on presenting the item for us before the meeting. So it is a state funded, this will be signs for the bike route, north-south from New Canaan to Rowayton and east-west from Rowayton to Westport. So I have here with us Greg Pacelli from TMP. He can give you more details about the project.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for having me here tonight, and thank you, Vanessa. Just to give everybody a brief background on the project, and Vanessa had mentioned it, but about 4 years ago, the city was awarded a community connectivity grant project funding from the Connecticut Department of Transportation for an east-west and north-south bike route. The overall length of the bike route is about 17.5 miles, lane miles, so in both directions of newly installed on-street bike facilities, and that includes dedicated bike lanes and sharrows. This route will be, one of the longest on-street bike routes for any municipality in the state, and it overall will increase the length of bike lanes by 75% in our city. And the project is 100% state funded. The project funding from DOT has already been received to the city. And one of the main portions of the project is to furnish and install the required signage as part of the bike route. The locations of the proposed signage within the project is required per CTDOT standards, as well as the NUTCD which is the manual and uniform traffic control devices. The final plans for this project have been vetted and approved by CTDOT Engineering in Newington. The final design over the length of the 17.5 miles calls for over 226 signs on about 100 channel posts throughout the city. The project has been widely supported by the Traffic Authority and the Bike Walk Commission as well over the last few years. And the Department of Transportation as well has been very excited about getting this project installed, as it is, like I said, it is the longest on-street bike routes within the state right now. So they're excited to get this implemented and installed, as it's been a few years in the making. They're excited to get it in.
Thank you, Mr. Livingston. Go ahead.
Yeah, Greg, can you tell us the timing?
Yeah, so like I said, the project is already, we've received the notice to proceed from DOT. We've received the funding, and one of the first things that we put out for bid was the signage, because it is very labor intensive to install that many signs along such a long corridor. So we put this out to bid. We received the low bid. So we're hoping to get the signs installed, even over the winter time. There will allow them to work, because, if the ground is warm enough, they can still install signs. And then the other component is just striping. And so we're coordinating with safety markings right now to get as much done as possible. So we're hoping over the next year, we'll have the entirety of the striping and signage completed.
Great. It's a really exciting project. Thank you.
It is, and it's been years in the making. So we're excited to see it through.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's very exciting, and it'll just make it so much easier for biking, and certainly a lot safer. So,
Yes.
Yeah, terrific. Any more questions or comments? All righty, I will call for a vote. All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Okay, opposed? Abstentions? All right, that carries unanimously. And moving on to items 11A and B. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a first amendment to the September 8, 2020 agreement between the City of Norwalk and Safety Markings, Inc. for project TMP 2022-2, proposed pavement marking symbols and legends at various locations for some not to exceed $71,494.50, account noted. And item 11B, authorize the Director of Transportation, Mobility, and Parking to execute a first amendment to the September 8, 2020 agreement between the City of Norwalk and Safety Markings, Inc. for the project TMP 2020-2, proposed pavement marking symbols and legends at various locations for a sum not to exceed $7,149.45, account noted. And who would like to move that? Ms. Johnson, thank you. All right, and that's the markings on the project. So who is going to take that?
Yes. Sorry.
Go ahead. Let's let Greg speak.
Okay. No. So this is just piggybacking off of the previous section, and the amendment to the contract will allow the city to utilize our already in place pricing with safety markings for the contract that was signed 2 years ago, which it is a 3-year contract. So we do have another year with the contract. So this allows us to get the best price for striping, by utilizing that contract, as opposed to going out as an individual bid for the project, which would be a much higher price tag. And, like I said before, it is 100% funded through the DOT's grant funding, and we are already in possession of the money. So now it's just coordinating with safety markings to get the striping to begin.
Okay, thank you, Greg.
Mhm.
Questions? Comment? Okay, Mr. Meek.
I'm sorry, I don't have questions about 10 or item 11 here, but I don't see TMP on the agenda after, and I just wanted to make a comment that we need to get out in front of this brouhaha on the Washington Circle. The cones out in front of Morgan Ave, headed down East Ave, I'm sure there's a good engineering reason for this, but you're not going to win public opinion keeping those there and drawing that out. So don't respond or answer to my point here, but I just wanted to bring it up. Thanks.
I'm going to recommend you reach out to Jim Travers via email or give him a call. I'm sure he'd be happy to talk to you about it. All right. Anything further on items 11A or B? All right. All in favor then, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Abstentions? All right. Those items carry unanimously. Okay, so that takes care of our new business, and we will move now on to information and discussion. First item is the electric and hybrid vehicle plan. Darlene, did you have a question? Or did you just forget to take your hand down? Okay, thank you. All right, so Vanessa, you want to go ahead and
Yes, so thanks for the opportunity. I understand that in I think the 2 Common Council meetings before, there was some discussion about the electrical vehicles and if there is a plan that the city has. So I would like to use the opportunity to let you know what is the fleet is under DPW. So we just want to let you know where we are with what is the plan, and I just want that you hear that at least there is something in the works. It may not be ideal, it's not exactly where we want, but we understand where everyone wanna get to it, and we're just gonna tell where we are and what will be the decisions that need to be made and the investments so we can get there. So as part of the package, we send you 2 sheets, and I wanna focus on the first one, that is where is all the electric hybrid vehicle plan that we have. As you heard during the meeting, we are still not supporting the big trucks and the big equipment to be electric. Chris does a very good job on reaching out to all the vendors and trying to understand how is the technology there and what will be the improvements, and also the price comparing to the regular ones. And as of now, the manufacturers continues to tell us that it is not worth it buying yet. We believe that this may change. There is a lot of things with the batteries, because it's not only the investment on the equipment itself, but we're going to need to also buy extra batteries to be replacing those big trucks or equipment. But again, we're continue on that. And we do not have, as of now, a plan to replace in the future any big truck yet. But we do have plans for smaller vehicles that we believe that it may work. So what you have on this green and yellow blue sheet shows all the regular cars that we have as part of the fleet. And we changed those cars. We have a plan to replace them every several years. You can see that some of the years that you see there, they're old. They're about 2007. So they are a 15-year-old car. Some of them has a very low mileage because some people do not use, some departments do not use them as often. So that's why we don't see the need to change them. But as soon as we see that one of the cars are ready to be replaced, we are changing those for a hybrid or electrical vehicle. So that's why you're gonna see that we were able to change about 6 cars in 2019. Was 6, right, Chris? 6 or 8 that we did? 8.
It was 10 total, 8 hybrid electric and then 2 EPVs.
Thank you. So we have already, as part of our fleet, the hybrid cars. Another thing that we are taking consideration, as Chris mentioned, the superintendents, they do drive a truck. So what we are considering now is that for next year, we're gonna ask for a little bit of extra money to replace their vehicles for electrical one. So we know that now Ford does this, what we call a lightning. It is the type of the vehicle, and we're proposing to change the 3 superintendent trucks in the next 3 years. We do not have a price exactly yet, because we couldn't get a final quote, but we know that is a little bit more than the regular truck. And those trucks are about due to be replaced. We are not anticipating to changing them. So as part of the fleet program, those are the ones that would be next, and we're proposing to change them for electric. There are another thing that we are excited about it is that when we went to this Public Works conference, we saw this small utility vehicle that is all electric. And we're considering buying that as part of our fleet, and we can use that car for some of this cleanup of the streets that we're doing in South Norwalk, Washington Street, and Wall Street. It is not such a big vehicle. There is not much equipment or heavy equipment that will need to be carried on it. It's pretty much just the guy that is doing the cleanup. And the areas that they go is not as far, so they can come back, because remember, we need to charge those vehicles. So we're gonna lose some time, some productive time throughout the day due to the battery recharge. So they will run from a few hours, but then you have to bring it back and charge for 1 hour. So we lose an hour productive day when we're on electric. But we're gonna purchase this vehicle. You're gonna probably be seeing, we're waiting for a final quote, and we have to work with the procurement, with purchasing. We believe that we can go ahead and buy this vehicle. So you're probably going to see in the next month or two a request to authorize us to buy this vehicle. That will be our electrical vehicle. Another thing that I want to bring to your attention is that in the city now, in our garage and at City Hall, we do not have an infrastructure to charge these vehicles yet. So besides the investment on the fleet, we do need investment to have EV chargers installed. There are some grants that is out there. Last week, we applied for a grant. It was, TMP was the one that lead that application, but we are looking everywhere to see if there are some options to go for some grant. We should be hearing about this grant in a few months. But again, we believe that for us to be able to run this hybrid electric fleet as what we have now, we're gonna need at least 4 charging stations at the garage and probably 4 at City Hall. So with the fleet, you're also gonna see that we're gonna add a line in our next budget to be able to install the EV chargers, or at least on those 2 locations. And that will be just to start the program. So besides that, the other sheet that we added is really our fleet replacement for the next few years. So there you're gonna see exactly what we're planning to replace on each year and what we're gonna be buying. And we're gonna always keep in mind that we're gonna prefer to go with an electrical vehicle if the price and the productivity is there. And we're gonna always present that to you. So again, this was just so you can understand better that, yes, there is a plan. We look at it all the time. Our fleet manager is on top of everybody. He was the one that was able to see that at least we could change the trucks, the superintendent trucks, and that's how we're going to move forward for our fleet request for next year. So Chris is here. Chris is the expert in the fleet. I don't know if you want to add something to it.
No, you did well. Thank you. The only thing I'm the superintendent. There's only 1. Supervisors, there's 3.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. No slight taken.
Ms. Najewski-Eichner.
Thank you so much, Vanessa and Chris. This is terrific. And I really appreciate you all bringing this to us and really laying out a plan and really being able to help us understand, kind of what the timeline is, what the pattern is. And I really appreciate having this information, substantially in advance of the budget, because this is stuff that obviously we're expecting to see in the budget. And I do, we have sort of all are aware that there's going to be upfront additional capital costs with things like the chargers and the increased prices on the vehicles. I do wonder, and this is not urgent, but it would be helpful perhaps for the budget discussions to be able to provide us some estimates as to the cost savings from reduced fuel usage. I think, again, just in general, understanding the offsets. My understanding is also that the electrical vehicles, people are finding reduced maintenance costs because they use, for instance, a lot less brake pads and other things. So that I think this would be helpful for the conversation when we start thinking about the return on investment that we might be making here. My other question, so we've obviously been talking about this, in the context of the police fleet as well. Do you all have any responsibility for the police fleet, or is that entirely managed separately by the police department?
The purchase of the police cars are managed by the police department through their operating budget. Whereas ours is a capital expense for our fleet. But once they buy the cars, we are responsible for fixing the cars and maintaining the cars. So if you wanted a report on how much fuel consumption the police use as opposed to DPW or City Hall, we can certainly provide.
Yeah, I think that would be very helpful. I mean, and again, I know that Deputy Chief Zucca has spoken to us a couple times. I know that they're looking into it, as you all are. But I think, again, as we grapple with sort of the upfront costs seeming intimidating, my sense is that the payback we will get over a few years is really going to cover a lot of that cost, and that may help us sort of over the hump as we look at what it's going to take. I recognize, again, the police fleet, because of their charging requirements, are likely going to need a number of charging stations installed. So anyway, I really appreciate you guys moving forward on this conversation. I really appreciate the thoughtfulness you brought in and your sort of constant checking in on what's available and what works. And I'm really looking forward to working with all of you on it. And I'm excited about the future for the city. I think it's terrific. And certainly if we can do things to support the grant application process, it would be wonderful to see Norwalk kind of being sort of recognized as a local leader in sort of flooping the municipal fleet would be really terrific.
Any other comments or questions? Ms. Johnson.
I just thought I'd pick up something that Mr. Thompson gave us in public input and comment. Have you ever heard of best practices anywhere where a city could utilize? I know with the police, we see them on bicycles, but what about operations? Is there any best practices there at all? I haven't really broached the subject with our police division about whether or not bicycles are effective for them on patrol, but.
I can't respond to that. I think the police are better suited to respond to the bicycles, and not to make light of anything, but they don't make bicycles that do what we do.
Got it. No, I just thought I'd ask Superintendent.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
All good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for this very thoughtful and thorough presentation. And again, it is very good to know that we are, you've been thinking about this and it's been part of the conversation and will continue to be. So, okay, let's move on to tree operations and programming.
Absolutely. Can we start? I think Paul, I saw his name floating around this. I think that he should talk about our tree planting. I would love to take credit for that, but he's here, so he should talk about it.
Okay.
There he is.
Okay, Paul.
Good evening, council members. Our tree planting, just for an update of what we've done so far this fall during the month of September. We had the Wilton Avenue event where we planted 36 new trees yesterday. That event was yesterday. Those trees have been planted. We had 2 additional replacements up there. Elmwood Avenue, we've got 40 new trees that are going to be planted within the next week or so. They've already been ordered. 26 Monroe Street, we're working with the Housing Authority for one of their parcels, what is known as the Leroy Downs property. There are 26 trees that have been ordered for there. And also the Housing Authority main office property at 24.5 Monroe Street. There are 14 trees that have been ordered for that location also. That brings us right now to 116 new trees and shrubs planted or ordered for the fall, with the 2 replacements brings us to 118. And just to give a little recap of what we've done over the last year, fall of 21 was 75 planted. There were 18 planted as part of the Wilton Avenue project last fall. Spring of 22, we planted 171 trees. And to date now in the fall of 22, we ordered or planted 116, bringing us to a total of 380 trees over the last year that have been planted in the 3 cycles, fall, spring, and fall again. And we understand that there is going to be some watering restrictions coming up, but we're working to try and do as much as we can. Just to give you an idea, we have orders, we could plant probably over 200 trees this fall if we are able to do it, and the maintenance is allowed under the watering guidelines. Round of applause.
Absolutely.
Great job.
Yeah, really great job. And just, it's just so encouraging to see how far we've come in just a couple of years, you know, in terms of tree planting. So thank you so much. Really, really well done.
Thank you,
You're
Paul.
welcome.
And now I get to be the tree reaper and tell you about the stuff that we removed and pruned. In Parks property, I think you have it in the packet for location specifics. 3 trees removed, 2 maples, 1 cherry. School property, 3 trees removed, 2 ash, 1 pine. Unfortunately, all of our ashes are dying. It's just a thing. I hate it because they're great trees. They're hardwood trees, but I think Massachusetts has none left, last I heard. So moving forward, city right away, 22 trees removed, 9 trees of heaven, 1 crabapple, 2 ash, 2 elms, 2 birch, 5 maple, and 1 oak. Tree safety prunings, we did 25 trees in the parks, 8 trees at schools, and 13 trees in the right of way.
Hey, Chris, what fell at row 8 in school? Was that an ash?
It should be in the packet.
I don't see it in my packets.
I'm looking now.
I just got it. I heard about it. I guess it was knocked down in a storm or something.
Yeah, if it's on here, then it wouldn't be on here because if it fell in a storm, we wouldn't have considered a takedown. Trees that fall in a storm, we don't consider those because they're already down. We just cut them.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I can find out though from Jose.
No, that's okay. That's, I just, if you knew offhand.
Okay.
Thanks.
And that's all I have for the trees. Any questions before I move on to solid waste?
I don't think so.
Another feel-good story?
I think we're good. All right, we're good.
Solid waste. But so how we do it I know it's been a while and I'm not sure how Anthony did it, but how traditionally we do it is we value one last year to this year and we compare them. So last year in August to this year in August, we're up 9.8% in curbside tonnage. That's what's collected by city carding. MSW tonnage out of our transfer station is pretty even at 0.8%. Transfer station, that's it for that. Anyone have any questions on the solid waste part of this? All right, great. Moving forward, recycling. Curbside tonnage is down 5.6%. And transfer station tonnage is down 3.7% from August of last year to this year.
So
I
Chris,
know, we can't we're not we don't have magic ball, what do you call it? Magic balls or whatever, but we don't really know why people aren't recycling as much as they were there for a while. I know we talked a couple months ago about that, maybe kind of returning to pre-pandemic numbers. But this drop seems even a little more significant.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Did you
I think our compost numbers are down, so I don't know if more food compost is going into the waste stream, because honestly, it's very expensive to eat healthy. So I don't see a lot of families buying $200 of vegetables anymore because no one can afford that.
Hey, Chris, can I ask you, I don't know if you can do this anymore because not many people are doing the recycling, municipalities, but do you know how our experience compares to other municipalities?
we're about the same as our surrounding municipalities. I think that we're actually a little better.
I wonder if
Some
they were
municipalities
dropping as
don't even
well.
have food composting programs or outreach like we do. We're still looking for our waste programs manager. We're certainly moving forward with putting the food compost bins at Cranberry Park in those initiatives.
But I'm wondering about the recycling collection at the curbside and transfer station, and if there's any way to look at whether other municipalities are having similar drop-offs. I think we're one of the few that's still doing this.
We'll definitely can check that and come back with an answer to you in the next meeting. And also one thing that we're gonna, as you know, on Wednesday, we have the Public Works on Wednesday that we push through the social media. So next week, one of the things that we're considering is really to try to educate the people about what can go in the trash and what cannot. So we're gonna try to make kind of a flyer of what is trash, what is recycle. We're going to make hopefully in two languages and try to see if we can start educating people on that. As Chris mentioned, well, unfortunately, we weren't lucky and fill the position for the waste and recycle manager program. So we're going to repost that. And we're hoping that we'll be able to find a good candidate sooner. Again, to hire in general hasn't been easy. We see that all over the board in every single department, there is a lot of positions that hasn't been filled. So we are gonna repost. We know it has been some time since we posted the first time. So we're hoping that now we may be able to attract different people. And one of the things that we are definitely gonna engage the new person to do is all this educational part of that. So sustainability and the educational portion will be key of the role of this new person that we're looking for.
Any other questions or thoughts? The something that came to me is I'm thinking about like my family's behavior and, with increased costs of everything, something that we've definitely cut back on is takeout. And takeout is, that's a lot of our recycling, those takeout containers. So, just wondering, thinking. Ms. Najowski-Eichner.
This is, potentially not, but I do wonder if it's possible to do a little bit of surveying, even just anecdotal surveying, to get a sense from people, if where the areas of confusion are, or what might be driving some of their behavioral changes. Because it is something we've noticed. We've been talking about this for 6 to 7 months now, and it feels like it may be at a point where it's worth investing a little bit to try to be less speculative and more sort of actually directed towards, what is actually happening from folks, because it has been continuing basically since not long after I joined this committee. So I don't know, just putting that out there, you all know your business, but it would be helpful to understand, if there is if their issues are an actual change in sort of the amount of waste, or if it is driven more by confusion or people's feelings about, they're not supposed to wish cycle anymore. And so then they aren't sure what to recycle, et cetera. It might help us target our marketing.
One of the things, and this is for you guys to think about, because you guys are the decision makers, is possibly thinking about going to automated garbage, where you get one 96-gallon recycle bin and one 96-gallon garbage bin. They won't take anything that's not in that bin. So you can't put out extra garbage cans. So it kind of forces you to do it. So if you guys want to take a hard line and do it, then that's an opportunity. Just throwing that out there into the universe.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit. I'm not sure that I actually understand, or to be clear, and maybe this is because I guess as I'm saying this, I don't have city trash pickup. So if you have city trash pickup, if you fill more than your sort of standard trash can, the city just takes it, whatever amount it is.
Yes.
Huh. Yeah, That's an interesting question. I agree with you. It seems like something we should consider what it might be to put a stricter limit on. Thanks for raising that, Chris.
Yeah, certainly something for some conversations. Absolutely. All right, anything else on,
I got the food
I got the food
compost
scrap? All
real
right,
quick.
okay.
So Norwalk did good against Roehampton for July. It was 49% to 51%. But in August, Norwalk is kind of sliding down. It was 64 to 34. So clearly Roehampton is buying more food at the grocery store, vegetables. Good for you guys, healthy. But that's all I have. So thank you guys for listening and entertaining me, or letting me entertain you.
Sorry, can I just make one more comment on, so Chris, one of the things that I love about our food scraps is it doesn't just have to be vegetables. I really appreciate that it is all food products. And I think that that sometimes is a confusion for people. It is, I had leftover pizza from a party where too much pizza was ordered, and it was really nice to be able to compost that as opposed to trash it. So I appreciate that flexibility there.
That's awesome. That should be a commercial.
I'll do my own PSA.
Here you go.
Yes, your husband gets too anxious and orders way too many pizzas for the birthday party. Don't worry. You don't have to throw it in the trash.
Food scraps.
Food
Awesome.
scraps.
Okay, so Chris, before you're done, you have a little song and dance for us?
No, I'm watching the Yankee game, honestly. So I'm kind of hoping you adjourn soon.
All right. I think we're finished with you.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, thanks so much, Chris. All right, and then current and upcoming project status.
So again, I would like to ask each senior engineer that is in charge of the project to go through that. We're only going to go through the construction update projects. We're not going to touch whatever is pending contract or has been advertised and designed. If you guys have any particular questions at the end towards those projects, we're happy to answer. So the first one, it will be Drew, and actually Drew can talk about Dreamy Hollow, the storm drainage improvements, and also the pavement management program.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to keep my video off just so I try to avoid freezing like I did last month. So hopefully we'll hang in there. But for Dreamy Hollow, we've begun installation of the 8x4 box culvert. That's 8 feet by 4 foot box culvert at Friendly Road, starting at the watercourse named Friendly Pond. At the same time, we're going to be doing clearing and grubbing within the city easement at Dry Hill Road in Carlin. That's expected to commence very soon. And the city is actively coordinating with Eversource Gas to get their main located on Dry Hill Road relocated below where the proposed box culvert is set to be installed. As far as paving, we've recently successfully paved Philo Street and the adjacent footpaths from Fox Run to North Taylor Avenue, as well as completed the paving on West Avenue from Garner to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. We're currently finishing up fine grading and preparing to pave Random, Rainbow, Button Ball, and Jarvis, after which we'll move across Ward Street and begin reclaiming and regrading the Plymouth Center Avenue area in preparation for paving. Finally.
Very good. Thank you, Drew. Is that it?
That's all I have on those projects. If you have any questions for me on those projects, I'm open to questions.
So what we have next is, I'm sorry, does anybody has a question? Sorry, I jump in.
No, it's just that all good.
Okay, so the next one are concrete curbs and sidewalks. And again, we have just 2 contracts from last year and this year, but Dan Stanton is here to tell us about it.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dan Stanton again. For concrete curbs and sidewalks, we have 2 different contractors. We're finishing up a previous contract with Grasso. They're working in that Center Ave area. They completed Plymouth, including closing some gaps on that street of the sidewalk network. So Neighbors are very happy about the connectivity there. They're working on Thames Hudson in preparation for the paving program coming through that neighborhood. So we, on a bi-weekly basis, have a project coordination meeting between Drew and the paving program and our drainage program to make sure that we stay on schedule and that we understand and anticipate opportunities to get our roads paved out there. So the other portion of the project is Deering Construction. They just finished Ohio and Delaware in that same neighborhood, and we'll be moving on to some other roads to work through the rest of the fall season as weather permits for that. And obviously we look to stay ahead of the paving program for next year. So the streets that we will be, proceeding with, Buckingham, Beacon, and others are anticipated to be paved, next year. So that's how we coordinate our programs together, that we're doing our curbs and sidewalks in anticipation of that paving. And obviously everyone is really excited about the paving because that's part of what they see on a daily basis from Public Works.
Okay, thanks, Drew. Or I'm sorry, Dan. Do we have any questions for Dan? Okay, next.
I think I'm just gonna reverse a little bit the order. Maybe since Dan is up, get the Calf Pasture Beach parking and green infrastructure. Is that okay?
Right. Yep, no problem at all. So a week ago, obviously last month, we awarded the contract to FGB Construction to perform our paving and green infrastructure project at Calf Pasture Beach. That work, we've had our pre-construction meeting. We had a field meeting with them and anticipate them starting construction the week of October 24th, obviously weather permitting. So we are currently processing, their submittals, their schedule, in anticipation of being complete with that project by May 5th, substantially complete by May 15th of 2023 for the summer beach season.
I just have a question on that. How will that affect people who use the beach for walking, during the fall and even in the winter?
So the components of the project, Barbara, is basically the main parking lot, which includes now the non-resident parking, an area we've identified as the south parking area, which is really adjacent to the volleyball courts and the skate park. And then also the pedestrian walkway as we make some of these safety improvements, because obviously people's main direction is to get to the beach safely when they're down there. So there is that reconfiguration of the entrance and exits to that. So in the bid documents, there was a recommendation of a phasing plan, right? And that the contractor understands the importance of, maintaining access at all times for the public. So, the major obstruction will be, on a day when we're utilizing a miller, or the days when we're paving out there. But we anticipate, because of the time of year that we're there, that there's enough parking available for people to utilize the beach. They may not necessarily be able to go to their favorite section, or it may take a little bit longer of a walk, but we hope that they appreciate the efforts that the city's making to improve their beach experience.
Oh, it'll be worth it for sure.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Drew. Do you have anything on the on-call drainage?
Currently with the on-call drainage, we're on hold just temporarily because we're investigating what roads we're going to be planning on paving next year. So we're currently investigating whether or not we have any need for installation of localized drainage or grading on the streets that we want for next year. So before we invest too many more resources, we're currently looking into those streets and seeing if we need any on-call drainage work there.
Okay, thanks. And
And one thing just to add, just part of that coordination that we do, we are working with the utilities to make sure that they're aware of our paving program and what roads we anticipate so that they are there prior to us. So that's an important component also, obviously, to get the underground utilities complete before we perform the surface treatments that we all see.
thank you so much, Stan. And the last one that we have, it is the Rowayton Avenue Bridge. So Paul can give us a little bit of an update on our completed project. So I believe this may be the last time that you guys will see that project in the list.
We have just a handful of punch list items that remain on the project. And I'm hoping that those will be completed in the next week or so. FGB has said that they're going to be providing the final schedule to do the remaining work. After those items are completed, the bituminous concrete lip curbing will be going in as part of the pavement management program on both the north and south sides of the road. And there will also be a bituminous concrete sidewalk installed between 416 Rowayton Avenue, the driveway, around to Woodchuck Lane on the north side of Rowayton Avenue. And once that is done, the trees that we are going to be installing at number 407 Rowayton Avenue, and basically to offset the couple of trees that had to be taken down because of the work, those will also be installed there, and I'm working with the property owner to coordinate that.
So these are all our projects that are under construction. So we just want to give you a status of it. Again, I'm happy to go beyond and tell you about the other ones, or if you have any further questions. And again, I would love the feedback if you think this is too much information. If you want that we change a little bit the agenda for next month, just let us know. During the winter month, you're probably not going to see any construction updates with the exception of Dreamy Hollow. Dreamy Hollow, we are planning to, unless if it gets extremely cold that the contractor really cannot do any work, we're not, should be the only project that will be under construction. So, but I'll leave up to you guys. I need the feedback so we can address the agenda accordingly.
Vanessa, first off, I think this is really helpful. I appreciate this. Just two quick questions on design. When do you think the West Cedar Street Bridge construction would start on that?
That's a great question. And the reason for that is the permitting. So our problem that we're having with that is that we try, again, this is part of the federal bridge program where the state pays 80% of it. So we do have a liaison from the state that help us oversee the whole design and construction of the project, particularly the design side. And it was agreed at the beginning of the project that we're going to go through the least, let's say, complex permitting, because due to the qualification of the bridge, we thought that that would qualify. Guess what? As soon as we did the presentation to DEEP, they said, no, we do not think that that is very simple due to the type of construction that we need to use in the river, because we will have to leave some pieces of the dewatering in the river. So they said, you need to go back and start the process again and go through the full process. So then we started, and maybe a month ago we heard, actually, maybe you guys can go back and go through the, let's say, the express lane. So with that, I do not have an answer. We are waiting to see what GP and, the designer and DOT will end up deciding on doing it. But we do have, the design is 100% complete. The only thing that we need is really the permitting. So as soon as we have that, and it all depends. It can be as quick as 4 months if we ended up getting to the express lane again, or it can be more towards mid of next year. The only thing that we need to be careful is that when we bid that project, it is very close to the Norwalk Community College. So we have to, depending on the time of the year when we're going to put that package on the street, because we want to make sure that doesn't affect too much the schools. So there will be a time that will be a closure, so we have to figure it out by then, when will be the best time to advertise, because we're trying to do everything in one construction season.
But you're thinking next year, right? Next
Yes,
time.
we have the budget to break ground next year for sure.
Okay, thanks. And one last quick question. The Vets Park visitor dock replacement, didn't we do that like not too long ago?
No. What you did is the visitors dock. The visitors dock that is, as soon as you get to the Vets Park on your right, is the visitors dock that anyone can come and stop there for the day. Those are the ones that were done. The ones that we're talking about is on the opposite side of the park where used to be the COVID testing. Those are the docks that Rex and Parks rent. And
Because
those docks are.
it says
yeah.
visitor dock. That's why I thought.
That's closer to pastimes, right?
Yeah, that's what,
Correct.
that makes more
Those are
sense.
the ones.
Yeah, okay, so, okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, we're working on Marina Dock, the visitor dock.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, okay, so that's what it is.
Okay. Anything else? Ms. Johnson?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask how you thought the tree fund was going. Is that working well when you're trying to interact with other, like, folks who are taking down trees? I know that's a loaded question because that's maybe more ordinance, but I just thought the intention was that you all could use it as a way to get them to give us the money so we could choose where the trees go and what type of trees. Have we not had an opportunity yet to interact with entities on that yet?
We haven't received, right, Paul, any major contribution from that. I know that what happened is that, and I know that Paul is the expert on that, but usually they have to come with a plan for replanting. It's like the 2-to-1, or they'll have to come up with some funding that we're gonna add to it and then we can plant. As of now, we haven't received, at least on any major project, something that is really cutting a lot of trees. Correct, Paul?
The only project that we've really used the fund for thus far is the grant that we had for the National Fish and Wildlife Fund, the $10,000 that we were able now to deposit into that account and then expend it to pay the bills for the trees that we used. So that was one issue. But as far as what Vanessa is talking about, that would be fines, or if somebody were to come in and need to offset payments because they weren't going to plant, then it would go into that account also. And we haven't had any of those so far. The ones that we've had, like say for the state Exit 16, where basically they're doing planting plans and we're negotiating more advanced plans. So there's no exchange of money going into that account.
Perfect. We're getting, like you said, to 2-for-1 or something like that.
Better.
That's fabulous. Or
Yeah,
better.
and some
That's great.
specific project is even more. We require a full landscape plan.
Fabulous. That's great. Thank you both.
Okay, anything else? I mean, and just in terms of feedback, I think it's great to have these construction updates, and like you said, there's going to be times of the year that, there's going to be more, it's not going to be a lot in the winter time. But I think it's really helpful because the truth of the matter is, I think that a lot of times we have these questions, one council member will have a question about one project and someone else will have another. So it's good for us all to hear the updates. So that's my feedback. If anyone else has anything that they'd like to add, but I do appreciate it. And I think that the public does too. So.
I'd like to know if the Strawberry Hill Lab is gonna finish before I retire.
Are you retiring before July? Because that's the plan.
I don't know, that thing's going on pretty long, no?
Actually, I know that it's going forever, but they had a lot of issues with material and also to get police on I-95 at the beginning of the project. That was the major delay that they had on that project during COVID. But anyhow, I think that I said that last time, but we were able to skip one phase on that project because we were able to close that bridge during the April break. And that was, I believe that was April, that one of the breaks of the school, we allowed them to do a full closure for almost a week, and we gained a whole phase. So that's why when you drive there, now they're building the last section. So the good thing is that they were really trying to demolish that part by the end of the year. And whoever drives by will see that it's pretty much done. So, you know, I think that hopefully by the by summer, we should have that bridge totally finished.
I appreciate you doing everything you can to help that. I know it's not much in your control, but appreciate.
Oh,
the
no,
update.
but there is a lot that we do to try to keep pressure on them. We go to the meetings, we tell them that we're not happy and all that. But anyhow, I think that, and they do understand, they also want to try to get out of it. Unfortunately, we're seeing delays in a lot of projects. It has been extremely hard to get material. The price is higher, you know, it is not available. And we are seeing that everywhere.
And I appreciate your hard work.
The last project meeting that we attended last month, they had said it was supposed to be completed by July 3rd of 23.
At least that's not a leap year date.
Okay. Anything else before I ask for that final motion? Nope. Okay. All right. All good. Thank you very much, everyone. And do I have a motion to adjourn? Ms. Nadjelski, Eichner made it. Okay. All in favor? All right. That's it. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
night.
Thank
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.